following is a presentation of Main Street Media, your source for news, sports, and information on Main Street in Middle Tennessee. Update edition of Main Street Sports today on the program. We'll be joined by Matt Brown with Extra Points, talking a little conference realignment, the mess that is. Also, Heather Williams with WCYB-TV out of Bristol, reaction to the Daytona 500 over the weekend. We've also got plenty of high school sports, region tournaments in full swing, and a slew of other topics, including it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Two zany guys from this side of the Duck River, now in the Lee Company studio. That's the Hall of Famer Mo Patton and the Sundrop Kid from Alabama, Chris Yao.
It is a hump day edition, and boy, are we excited for yet another middle of the week. Just right in the middle. Here we are. I'm exhausted.
Stuck in the middle.
With who?
Well, it's those clowns and jokers that I'm more concerned with. But, yeah. You know.
Oh, man. Literally, guys, I've been up since about 5:30.
Well, you've actually been working this week.
And I've been up since 5:30 this morning with the kid.
Does that mean that you normally don't work? Is that where you're going there, Mo?
I typically don't work in the morning time because I had not been able to do much in the, in that 8 to 12 window when you have to deal with, being at home with a kid. There's just not a lot you can do. I mean, so it's been a crazy week though. On top of the timing, the content has been aplenty. So yeah, it's been a crazy week, and I feel like it's Tuesday of next week already. That's how much I feel like.
I was standing next to somebody last night out at Mount Pleasant at the District 10 2A boys tournament consolations and championships, and he's like, "Been a busy week?" I'm like, "Yeah, and it's just Tuesday."
It doesn't feel like that though. That's what's crazy.
Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot.
Ironically,
and it's not easing up.
Well, it's ironic that you say it's been a lot because it really has been a lot. Mm-hmm. But today's rundown has like 9 things on it. Because it really has been just district tournament time is the toughest time of the year because it's about a week and 2 days, especially when you have one day of pushing it back because of rain. It gets drawn out and it takes forever.
Well, sometimes it gets drawn out unintentionally.
Right. And
sometimes it gets drawn out intentionally, and that doesn't help any either, but that's neither here nor there. I think all of our district tournaments are over with.
Finally.
So now we can kind of spin our attention to regions that start up on Friday.
Now we can
along with state wrestling that starts up tomorrow.
Don't remind us, man.
And Columbia State that begins state tournament play this weekend over in Dyersburg that I'm still trying to get brackets for.
By the way, well, we missed that on Monday. They did, men and women swept Jackson State on Monday.
Sounds like.
So anyway.
Can't miss what you don't know.
Again, it's been a week. So it's only Wednesday. Hope you guys are having a good week so far and getting ready for the back half. Let's go ahead and get to yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
As we mentioned, District 10 2A boys basketball consolation and championship results from last night. In the consolations, Giles County defeated Lewis County 82-61. Championship game was Summertown 47, Loretta 43. In NCAA men's basketball, specifically Southeastern Conference men's basketball action, number 17 Tennessee went over to Como and picked up an 80-61 win over Missouri. 24th ranked Alabama edged host Vanderbilt at Memorial Gym 74-72 last night. And in the NHL, the Preds
with a comeback,
pummeling the net in a 6-4 victory over visiting Florida.
It was 4-3 at one time, and then the Preds scored a tie, and they wiped the goal away. So the Preds said, fine, we'll just score 3 more times. And they did. So
Yeah, if we put enough in the net, eventually some of them are going to count, right?
enough will count for us to win.
Yeah, there you go.
Tonight's schedule in men's basketball action at 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus. You can see Lipscomb at Bellarmine. So,
A-Sun, baby.
a little A-Sun action. Yeah, Eastern Kentucky and Jacksonville State also play at 6 on ESPN Plus if you care. Some people do. Not being one of them. NCAA baseball action at Tennessee, 18th ranked Tennessee, UNC Asheville. That first pitch is at 4:30. Vanderbilt, 5th ranked Commodores hosting Evansville. The Aces. I bet they have cool uniforms.
I bet they do too.
5:30 first pitch, and Middle Tennessee State, as we heard from Chip yesterday, rescheduled from Thursday to today at Belmont. That is a 5 o'clock first pitch for the Blue Raiders and the Bruins. So go check it out, and that's today's rundown. Today's top story, the opening kick, if you will, talking a little NFL football, because it appears, according to the big lead, I believe, is, yeah, that's where it came from. Monday Night Football is back, but with a twist, a little twist.
Back?
The doubleheader, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The Monday Night Football doubleheader
Mm-hmm.
that we had 2 years ago and they didn't have last year for some reason or whatever. Because
In the opening weekend, is that what you're referring
it
to?
was so late.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of folks were really not enjoying it because
It was late.
you couldn't stay up till
Mhm.
midnight and watch both games.
They couldn't.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
but according to the Sports Business Journal, when ESPN's new NFL deal kicks for 2023, ABC will carry 3 Monday Night Football games each year of the new contract. This year, during what league and networks are calling a bridge season, that will sync up the contracts. So the 2022 season is between the contracts, I guess. They will carry one quasi doubleheader.
Quasi.
They're going to kick
Pseudo.
They're going to kick one at 6 Central and then kick another at 7 Central and run them simultaneously.
Okay. So they're not really double headers. They're just 2 games on Monday night.
Yes, but it's still both Monday Night Football, so I don't know how you want to call it.
2 games on Monday Night Football.
It's very interesting, and that's what they said. It's a twist necessarily, but it'll work out. If one game's bad, you just turn on the other one. If one game is, or if they're both good, they're really in good shape because you're gonna, probably most people have picture-in-picture availability now. You just may not know how to do it, but it's pretty cool that they're. I've always loved the idea of kicking. Like during halftime, I can go flip over to this other game and I can watch a live game. I don't have to watch halftime at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's very frustrating. That's what kills me about Saturday morning football. I want one game to kick off at 11 and one game to kick off at 11:15. It's really
or 11:30.
Or 11:30.
Yeah. Stagger them.
Just stagger them so I can. It's not halftime at the same time every time.
But they don't want to concede that people aren't watching the halftime updates though either. So because they got to sell those commercials too, right?
Raise your hand if you watch halftime. Does anybody?
Not in-
JP likes that stuff because he's a studio guy.
He's more of a production guy and he watches that stuff. Yeah,
but most sports fans are looking for something else, or they're tending to their barbecue grill or whatever.
mm-hmm.
On Saturdays, I will dump out of halftime. Yeah, I won't stay around for that. So I'll flip around because of what you're talking about. You have staggered games, so you can flip around. without really missing a whole lot.
But on Sundays
it's difficult.
You can't. Which I mean, you typically only get one game anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you
you don't have much of a choice.
If you have the option for more than one, it's still just one.
That's where if you can get the red zone channel,
right?
That's where you can flip. If it's halftime of the game you're following, flip over to the red zone if you got it.
And then you get the last 2 minutes of whatever.
Yeah.
Because again, it's still going to be halftime.
Yep.
For most places, but it's okay. I mean, I'm okay with this. You know, it's going to be interesting to see. Both games will finish at a decent hour, and
theoretically,
well, unless it's that Ravens Raiders game that went to like double overtime or something. I don't even know. But it's going to be good for ABC and ESPN. I'm interested to see how this works. ABC getting Monday Night Football back is certainly unique in and of itself. So.
Yeah. Now all you need is Don Meredith and the guys, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, man. What a great show we have. Matt Brown talking OVC, Big South Football, Scheduling Alliance, as well as expansion in the OVC. They added a team, so it should be interesting. A basketball-only team, of course. But they added one. Yeah. Like today. So we'll talk to Matt about that. We've got SEC hoops. Colin Cowherd making some ridiculous statements, of course.
No,
can't imagine
never
that.
Happens, yeah.
A bill has been introduced to talk about tax breaks for stadiums. So there's that. Heather Williams as well, and it's Wild and Wacky Wednesday. All of that ahead on Main Street Sports Today. Stick around after this. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Keep your home as comfortable as possible. If you have any issues with your air conditioner, electrical, or plumbing systems, call Lee Company. Our techs use visual findings and other technology tools to add transparency and clarity. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on the roof. We're here 24/7, so if you need us, call us. Lee Company. Call 931-548-4448 today or schedule your appointment at leecompany.com. That's leecompany.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back in to this Wednesday edition of Main Street Sports Today. Chris Yao, Mo Patton, JP Plant here with you. Teresa Walker, friend of the show, is out at Nissan Stadium where they are talking about the Stadium Series game between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Nashville Predators that will take place this Saturday. Miranda Lambert and Dierks Bentley will be taking part in some in a quasi concert.
Got a word of the day now, don't we?
We do.
Apparently.
Quasi.
Let's see how many more segments we can get that into.
Maybe this is a quasi segment.
Mm.
I don't know.
But tomorrow we will talk with Pete Weber, Nashville Predators play-by-play voice. Should be a lot of fun to talk about that and Pekka's ceremony. So all of that coming ahead later this week. You're definitely going to want to watch and listen wherever you get your podcasts, or of course you can watch us live on your social media networks of choice. Right now, though, we need to go to some conference realignment because
it never stops.
It never stops. We could literally just have Matt on at all times just to randomly break in and say, "Hey guys, got some movement." I mean, it's really insane. But joining us now is publisher of Extra Points, the best newsletter in college sports, if you ask me. It is Matt Brown. Matt, welcome in. Thanks for taking some time with us, man.
Hey, it's my pleasure. You're right. I feel like it's about every 10 days, somebody's moving somewhere and packing up somewhere else, and we have need to hop back on the phone again.
It's quite intriguing, and the news yesterday of the Big South and the Ohio Valley Conference joining forces for football purposes, starting with the 2023 season, was the news of the day. And in true fashion, as Chris informed me, that goes onto the back burner 24 hours later because the OVC and Lindenwood out of St. Charles, Missouri, announced that Lindenwood will be joining the conference here soon, as that program comes up from NCAA Division II. So, and Matt, you and I had kind of talked about that when we talked offline about a week or so ago. That was kind of expected. I guess I'd kind of forgotten about it, but the OVC. What are your thoughts about the OVC right now?
Sure, I look at this football merger with the Big South, which still has a fair amount of pretty significant questions left unanswered. We don't know what it's called. We don't know who's going to be in charge.
Big OVC.
We don't know what the branding is going to look like. Yeah, the Big Ohio's. I don't know. And this is a non-trivial question. But I look at this as this is the right move to kind of stop the bleeding. Really for both of these leagues that are certainly on the hunt right now for other football playing members, if not all sports members. And just like if you were a company that was trying to hire some new staff, but you couldn't prove that you were still going to be operating 6 months from now, it's going to be hard for you to recruit new members. And that's where I think things are with the OVC, because you have half of this league that is at least rumored to be looking at other options. You have a football coach at one of these programs, flat out saying in an interview, "I think this is a dying conference," which makes it difficult then to get on the phone and say, "Would you like to join this league?" One thing is Division II, right? Like, well, we'll just put Eddie George on the side over here for a second, Western Illinois, as we're trying to talk to you. So the fact that they're able to secure this is their way of saying, like, look, no matter what happens to any of these other schools, if you participate in this league, you're going to have access to the FCS playoffs. You're going to have access to a championship experience. You're going to have access to a stable number of regular season games. I don't know what this league is going to look like in 5 years, but this is I think it's the best possible outcome for securing some stability right now.
Let's kind of go through this, because we know Kennesaw State and North Alabama, they headed to the ASUN, and then North Carolina A&T announced they were headed to the CAA. Who is in the Big South at this point, or that would be right now?
Hang on. I can answer that.
You can answer.
Because the Charlotte Observer has an article up today. So let's see. In 2023, the Big South, well, In 2023, the 4 remaining football members will be Campbell, Charleston Southern, Garner Webb, and Robert Morris. Robert Morris in Pennsylvania, by the way.
Yeah.
Yep,
Well,
just outside of Pittsburgh.
And Campbell with the #1 recruiting class in the country. FYI. So
It's pretty wild. Yeah. Just had a story up on ESPN about that today. That's right.
And then the OVC supposedly in 2023 for football will consist of Eastern Illinois, Southeast Missouri State, Tennessee Tech, and UT Martin. And
Lindenwood.
And now Lindenwood. Yeah. So
I didn't realize Lindenwood played football.
I did not either until I was just looking on their website here over the break. So
I was like, they definitely just added another basketball school, but no, it was in fact football. So how important was that for this for this to happen, or was Lindenwood just an added bonus for the Big South?
You know, it's funny. I think the Lindenwood situation was secured well before the Big South merger. You know, it's really quite shocking how quickly this came together. And that's why I think it's not a surprise. There's still some big questions left unanswered. You know, my understanding is that the structure of the Big South agreement came together in a little over a week. And I know with the OVC had been talking with other leagues about doing something similar, and those conversations had broken down at various points. So I don't think Lindenwood was a requirement to make this happen. It's a nice addition. It's a school that I think is going to help the OVC predominantly in some other sports. They sponsor a gajillion sports. It's probably going to take them a little while to get to the point where they can compete for conference championships in football. The jump from D2 to D1 is significant.
Yeah, and that's kind of what strikes me about this whole thing, Matt. You know, Lindenwood is coming up from D2. Southern Indiana, which does not have football, but they are coming up from D2 to join the OVC. You know, that's not just a walk into the office one day and say, hey, let's go D1.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different for certain sports. You know, we've seen now the past couple of years that if you are a really good Division II basketball program and you can retain the athletes on your team and you're walking into a league that's not the NBA, you know, Central, the Eastern Conference or something, you can be successful relatively quickly. You know, Bellarmine up in Louisville was a D2 power. They've been successful in the A-Sun. Merrimack was a high-level Division II program. They came in and they were successful, you know, pretty early on, I think, in the NEC. It's much harder in football. You know, in basketball, like your roster size, your scholarship allocation is still pretty similar. To go from D2 to FCS, you're going to have to add on 20 plus scholarships. You're going to have to do a lot more hiring. And now, yeah, you're entering into a league where Campbell is signing guys that could be playing in the Sun Belt or in Conference USA. So it generally takes a while. There's a couple of exceptions on the football side, and I can think of maybe 1 or 2 Division II football schools that I think could come in and be over 500 pretty quickly. But I would imagine Lindenwood's going to take their lumps on the football field these first couple of seasons until they're able to get their infrastructure in place.
Of course, at the same time, this isn't your father's OVC either. I mean, there's no Eastern Kentucky. There's
no Jacksonville
State.
It's kind of, yeah. Well,
there's no Murray.
Murray
was the
recently
preseason favorite to win it this past year, I believe.
Yeah, recently they've been very good.
Yeah. So
well, since Chris was there, I guess since he left, maybe not. I don't know. But you know, a lot of folks talking about Tennessee State in this, with NCA&T leaving the Big South and with the issues that have been happening with the Classic over in Memphis and that sort of thing. Tennessee State, and of course, obviously Eddie George's comments is calling it a dying conference.
It can't go over well.
How does, especially when you're in the home of your conference, in the home city of your conference, how important or how vulnerable is the OVC and Tennessee State's relationship?
I think you have not been the first people to raise this point to me. This is something I've heard from HBCU circles for several months. It's something that I've heard from administrators at other schools. Like I can tell you that ADs in the OVC are worried about losing not just Tennessee State, but potentially multiple Tennessee schools. And that's part of the reason that you want to get this sort of arrangement
The Big South.
with the Big South solidified as soon as you possibly can, to be able to say, like, look, we're not dying. We are reevaluating. We're a different kind of league, but you still have an auto bid. I am unaware of any imminent changes to any of the Tennessee schools to go elsewhere. I'm unaware of anybody like brokering anything with the ASUN or at the SWAP, but I can't lie to you and say that it would be impossible. We can both read, right? we can both see a spreadsheet. We both know that those are leagues that would be looking for other members. I can share this, that I know that officials at Tennessee State want another HBCU in this league, and they want another Southern HBCU league. So Chicago State would not be sufficient. So I know what the OVC is trying to get, at least one, if not more. That's the name that we've heard. I can't tell you how likely that is. If I was a betting man right now, I would say it's more unlikely than likely, but that's definitely a target. And if the OVC is unable to do that, and another league from whatever is able to say, how would you like to play multiple HBCUs? I'm sure that's something Tennessee State would consider.
Never a dull moment.
There really isn't. That's what's so crazy about this.
Never a dull moment.
And based on what you know right now, how close are we to being done?
We're not done yet.
Okay.
I for one, I would not be. I would expect the Big South to add at least one more school. I think it is entirely possible that school is Bryant. That school, there may be other schools in the Northeast that end up joining as affiliate members, because there's still a lot of shuffling that's going to happen between the America East that has to replace 2 members, the NAAC, which has to replace at least 1 member, if not more members, and then the NEC, which may need to raid Division II. And some of those schools may be left without a football league, and they end up in the Big South. I know that the ASUN and the Southland and the MEAC are all still making phone calls right now. So we are probably a couple of months away from being done. But the fact that both now the OVC and the Big South have kind of established this minimum, that makes it easier for the OVC to not have to maybe take a reach on a Division II school that isn't really ready just because they need a body. This gives everyone a chance to breathe, at least for a second.
Makes sense. Marshall trying to sue their way out of Conference USA. 0 chance Marshall, Old Dominion, and Southern Miss play in Conference USA this season, I presume.
I would be very, very surprised. The big question to me, I think, is going to be what kind of financial settlement and what ends up coming out in some kind of discovery. I mean, we've already seen now all of the Conference USA bylaws that have been published as part of this lawsuit, and you can see all the times that Marshall tried to force their way out. I have talked with a couple of different attorneys about those documents, and the general consensus I'm getting is, boy, Marshall has some pretty creative lawyers. We'll see if they're able to kind of get a home court ruling for this sort of thing. I'll tell you, it's all very surprising. It's not surprising that a lot of hurt feelings are happening and relationships are being torn apart through realignment. The litigation and threats of litigation is generally not this public. It's really not in anyone's best interest for it to happen this way.
Mm-hmm. Generally.
There you go. Matt Brown.
Yeah, I mean, other than me, other than schmucks that get to write about it for a living. Like that's great. Send me your dirty laundry.
There we go.
And we appreciate the fact that you sift through it and give us the best parts of it. The cleanest dirty shirt, as Johnny Cash would say, and Chris Christopherson. It is.
Yes, sir.
It is Main Street Sports Today. We have spoken with Matt Brown of Extra Points. Make sure to subscribe to the Extra Points newsletter and follow him at Matt Brown EP on Twitter. It will be the best follow you make this week, I promise. Matt, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen. I appreciate it. And until next time.
Yes, sir.
And there will be one.
Until, 2 days from now.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got some SEC hoops to talk about last night's ball games, and we'll talk about what Colin Cowherd said to make the NJCAA very angry. So stick around. We'll be right back. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Keep your home as comfortable as possible. If you have any issues with your air conditioner, electrical, or plumbing systems, call Lee Company. Our techs use visual findings and other technology tools to add transparency and clarity. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on the roof. We're here 24/7, so if you need us, call us. Lee Company. Call 931-548-4448 today or schedule your appointment at leecompany.com. That's leecompany.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Brady McAtamney and Blaine Keller bring you all the latest in sports from Robertson and Montgomery counties on the Main Street North podcast, airing live Thursdays at 1 p.m. The duo talk about high school sports and beyond, including a special guest this week, Springfield alum and Austin Peay pitcher Luke Brown. Watch live on Main Street Media social media or listen to the podcast on your podcast distribution platform of choice. That's Main Street North Podcast. Subscribe today.
Or as we like to call it, the MSP North. That too.
MSP North.
Yeah.
The MSP North is the great beyond.
Mm-hmm. It is.
For us. We never, once we hit Nashville, there's like a wall, and we just do not continue. Because then you're just too close to Bowling Green, aren't you, Mo?
It's pretty close.
It's too close for you.
Closer than I care to be.
Yeah. Winter's always coming in the north. For any of you GOT fans out there.
Last night, Alabama came north, and we talked about how it could certainly be a problem. In Memorial, there's still some juju in there, and
I think you're right. I hesitate to say the magic is back, but they are certainly giving some folks problems with the end zone benches.
Exactly. And Alabama gets the win. They ended up winning 74-72, but Vanderbilt was actually got it within 2 points and was within about 2 centimeters of tying the ball game with 4 seconds to go. A layup that just didn't fall. Unfortunately, that's a tough way. That's a tough way to lose, man.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, you just got to go, well, ball don't lie.
Not our night.
Not our night.
Not our night. Yeah.
And so it's still Vanderbilt. Great showing last night against the 24th ranked Tide. Here's the thing. I didn't realize this. Had Vanderbilt won, Alabama and Vanderbilt would have been tied for in the SEC standings. Alabama with 3 top 10 wins would have been tied with Vanderbilt in the SEC standings.
This league has been nuts all year, and we've been talking about it, and it feels like it's going to continue to be nuts. And that's going to make for a whale of a tournament, I think.
It's going to be one of the best tournaments we've ever seen in the Southeastern Conference. I don't think there's any chance the 1 and 2 seeds end up in the finals. Period.
There are 4 teams tied with 7 losses, or 7 losses. That would put you 5th in the league right now. Alabama's 8-7. LSU, South Carolina, and Mississippi State are all 7-7. I assume they play tonight. And then Florida's 7-8. Your top 4 right now is Auburn, Kentucky, Arkansas, and Tennessee.
So, Chris, you don't see Kentucky and Auburn in the finals?
I don't think the way that this league has played out that there's any chance we see the 1-2 teams in the finals.
I'm not going to go that far, but I certainly would not be surprised if
I would be more surprised if
it's
they
1 and
did
2 than if they don't.
Yes. Put it that way. I would be more surprised if 1 and 2 end up there than I would be anything else.
I feel you on how crazy and it seems middle of the road this conference is. Very competitive. But those 2 teams, I mean, they're both, if not both 1 seeds, they're kind of flip-flopping between 1 and 2 in the NCAA tournament.
They're both potential 1 seeds, and they have 5 conference losses between them.
It's amazing.
But they could also have something in common after Saturday. They both could have gone into Thompson Bowling Arena and gotten beat because Tennessee hosts Auburn on Saturday, and
Tennessee still hasn't lost it.
They've still not lost
Thompson Bowl.
at TBA.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to Vanderbilt just a second, with that loss, Vanderbilt falls to 6-9, which leaves them in a tie with Texas A&M for 9th, and they need to be 9th to avoid that extra game to start the
extra game.
The extra game.
They could be 10th, I think, and still get that extra day because they're 14.
That's right, 11, 12. Okay, my fault. They're tied for 10th then, because Georgia is at the bottom, Missouri is 13th, Ole Miss is 12th, and Vanderbilt and Texas A&M are.
And Vandy holds that tiebreaker due to beating A&M.
A&M,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yep.
So you got,
they're teetering, but
they are definitely teetering.
That's a huge advantage between playing that first night or getting that day. Yeah, it's almost impossible. I don't know if anybody's ever come out of that first day to the finals.
Well,
since they've gone to 14 teams.
In part because they're 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Still, yeah. But yeah, I mean, that would have been a great one to get last night for Vanderbilt on top of that win over Texas A&M over the weekend. So it's wild and wacky.
Right here. This conference is nuts, and Tennessee goes to Como and gets a win. Obviously, Missouri not great. They're 4-11 in conference, 10-18 overall, but Como has not been an easy place to win for Tennessee in the past. And last night they took care of business
from the get, pretty much. I mean, I checked in on it at one point, and it was I think 28-19 in the first, pretty early on. It was 54-36 at another point. I mean, they pretty well put it on cruise control, looked like. So good for them.
Good for Tennessee. Absolutely. I guess we can put a bow on the Juwan Howard, Greg Gard situation with this here, because Colin Cowherd basically said that Juwan Howard was acting like a junior college coach. Like he was some coach at some random JUCO. I'm sure he's thinking Jason Brown types, not necessarily Winston Neal types, but you know what I'm saying. And so the NJCAA put out a statement and said, look, the statements made by Colin Cowherd are degrading and uneducated. There is no level in sports that should tolerate the behavior that Mr. Cowherd was referring to, which is understandable. Still made a swipe. Anyway, his statements is further evidence of a negative and uninformed stigma in our society regarding junior college and 2-year collegiate athletics and higher education. To portray that grown-ups acting like fools is a normal behavior in junior college basketball, and that only coaching in the Big Ten or Power 5 level is a, quote, big responsibility is false. Big responsibilities are not measured by the level that you coach, but rather the impact you make on a young person's life to chase their aspirations and become better versions of themselves. That is what junior college coaches do each and every day from Dr. Christopher J. Parker, president of the NJCAA.
Cowherd should have been forced to read that on his show.
Absolutely. I cannot.
But here's the thing. That release could have stopped at the first sentence. Read that first sentence again. Read that again.
He's not wrong. The statements made by Colin Cowherd are degrading and uneducated. Well,
Boom.
You could have
Enough.
just
Done.
Yeah.
you and you can say that every day.
Each and every day,
Just retweet.
as Dr. Parker says.
Just
Yeah.
Retweet each
Yep.
and every day. So anyway,
Evergreen.
it's an evergreen tweet. There's no question there. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting, and he made the NJCAA very angry. So anyway,
And they let him know. Good for them.
speaking of the NJCAA, though, we have some schedule news.
We got some brackets for the TCCAA / NJCAA Region 7 men's and women's tournaments that begin this weekend over in Dyersburg. The Lady Chargers play as the number 6 seed against 3rd seed at Cleveland State. They play the late game on Sunday night. That's an 8:00 start over in Dyersburg. Walters, per usual, is the number 1 seed. Chattanooga State is the number 2. Cleveland State's the 3. Roan State is the 4. But the Lady Chargers open against Cleveland State. If they win that, they would play the late game again on Monday. The women's championship is on Tuesday at 4 over in Dyersburg. Columbia State's men go into the tournament as the number 2 seed. They will play at 6:00 on Saturday against the winner of number 7 Cleveland, number 10 Jackson. They play on Friday. C State's the 2, again Dyersburg. The host Eagles are the 1 seed. Roan State's the 3, Southwest is the 4. So we will have these brackets up on the website at mainstreetmurray.com at some point today, so you can check that out. And I hear music, so I guess we are approaching halftime. Stay with us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We'll be back.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck, yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee, because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
In maritime law,
Oh boy, this could be interesting.
an abandoned ship is free game. Finders keepers,
Okay.
losers sweepers. All right. And
You stole a piece from Wild and Wacky for halftime, didn't you?
I guess I did.
Yeah.
Well, my question here is there anything that would make you want to try and salvage
A
something?
vehicle?
Anything? Is there anything that would be on a ship that if it was on fire and abandoned, that you would take yourself and put yourself in that situation to obtain?
Not a thing.
To go into a fire?
Or,
It's
or
not-
to
it's-
go
it's-
into the water, like
Oh.
a sunken
sunken
ship.
ship?
No, it's not sunk. It's still there. No fires. The smoke is gone, but the temperature's still pretty hot inside the ship.
Yeah. Are there treasures in there?
There are 1,100 Porsches and 187,
Oh, that's right.
189 Bentleys.
So
Well,
this,
how are you going to get them off?
yeah.
Where exactly are they? Because I saw something about this.
Something, I think it's near Portugal. but they're in the Atlantic Ocean, just in the ocean. It's
So, I mean, I've got to have another boat.
or be able to fix this one.
I've got to have another boat.
Anybody got a trolling motor?
Mo, we're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah, no doubt. No.
Anybody got a trolling motor? We
No.
just stick that in there and let her let her go, boys. We're gonna need that 250 Evinrude, y'all.
No, I kind of think that's a hard pass right there.
I mean, I don't think there's anything that can make me want to risk that. It blew me away because Matt Farah, an editor of the Smoking Tire, said he's been waiting for his 2022 Frozen Berry Metallic Boxster Spider, estimated to be $123,000 since August. Then on Wednesday, he got news from the dealership. It may or may not be on fire, sir.
May or may not.
And of course, he's already paid for it.
Odds are a new build and hopefully not another 8 months wait for it, he tweeted.
Good luck, sir.
That's
Good
tough.
luck. Yeah.
There is, that's wild, man. Wild and wacky. Again, wild and wacky, the weirdest and wildest news from across the world coming at you later in the show. Final segment of this Wednesday, so stick around. We've got in the second half, we've got we're going to talk about a law that is on the books potentially or going to be voted on shortly and how it affects the Tennessee Titans or potentially affects them. Heather Williams of WCYB-TV in Bristol talks NASCAR and more. So stick around. Main Street Sports Today returns after this.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
It is the second half of this Hump Day edition of Main Street Sports Today. Coming up in the second half, we'll talk with Heather Williams, WCYB-TV, out of Bristol, the Tri-Cities, about the Daytona 500. The rookie gets the checkered flag from Sunday. Also, an interesting law regarding stadiums. Our thoughts on that, plus more wild and wacky, because it's Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Once again, the Lee Company studio with the Hall of Famer Mo Patton. Here's a Sundrop kid from Alabama, Chris Yao.
Welcome back in on this Wednesday edition Hump Day. Let's talk a little. We have talked about this before with Teresa Walker that the Tennessee Titans are considering a new stadium. In what was it, 97 that they started building the new stadium, or at least that's when the contract was signed.
Right.
It was a 30-year lease, and there were quite a few tax incentives in there. Some representatives of Congress have introduced a bill that would immediately eliminate a tax break used by professional sports teams. They labeled the bill, quote, the No Tax Subsidies for Stadiums Act. Doesn't have a cute acronym like some of those others. But they're kind of using the Dan Snyder situation as cover here. Why are we subsidizing people with sexual harassment allegations? Seems a little goofy. I mean, that's a bad pretense, but maybe not a bad idea. Tax subsidies for private stadiums it's debatable.
It's very debatable, and I think I'm a person that likes to address things on a case-by-case basis.
Absolutely.
Rather than taking the situation with Dan Snyder and the Washington Commanders and applying it to every situation, because that is a bad situation and he didn't deserve that. And it was the responsibility of those people in charge of that situation to say, no, we're not going to give you any money. You're a bad person. But, the Titans leadership hasn't done anything that we're aware of to deserve being lumped in with Dan Snyder. So, I mean, if that's the basis for this, it's just a bad parallel, I think.
Here's my question. Can Congress even legislate that the Titans can't do it? Now, in D.C., they absolutely can, I would assume.
You would think.
But
it just seems to me, again,
is that even in there?
It's funny. So as I walked in the building here at Kennedy Broadcasting, I was listening to whatever was on the airwaves, and there was mention of small government. And yet we're taking on this kind of thing while we're talking about small government at the same time. I mean,
for the record, all three of the representatives were Democrats in this situation.
That doesn't make it right.
No, but I'm just saying they're not necessarily the small government party, but they would rather use tax dollars for something other than clearly, or they need
professional sports stadiums. And I can see that too, but just vote no. Why you got to enact laws to give yourself cover instead of taking a controversial stance to a specific issue?
I totally agree. Now remember, they're not necessarily taking tax dollars out of the hands of the city or the state to fund it.
Sure.
They're just not collecting tax dollars that they already didn't have.
It's more about the optics.
It is. It's not like
the whole thing is about the optics. Really,
we're not taking the general fund and giving them,
right.
$25 million to put lights up.
We're taking specific funds and doing that, and we're still not doing what you think we should be doing with the general funds.
So I'm just not sure. I'm not sure exactly how I feel specifically about tax breaks on sports stadiums, because I do think that sports stadiums do impact the area in which they stand.
Mm-hmm.
Although when we talked about the move from Turner Field to Truist Park, a study done over 3 years noted that there was it was negligible the amount of tax revenue that had been generated by Truist Park and that area.
The battery and all that. Yeah. I'm not sure that the impact is what the professional franchises would necessarily have you believe it to be when they are trying to sell that.
But then you've got situations like Houston, who, when they lost their team, realized, oh crap, we need a professional football team.
Mm-hmm.
And so they went and built a stadium that they wouldn't build for the Oilers. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
San Diego would probably tell you losing the Chargers hurt. St. Louis is mad because their team got stolen from them.
Mm-hmm.
It had nothing to do with St. Louis.
With them.
St. Louis would have gladly given the Rams whatever tax breaks they needed, but they did not, because it wasn't an option.
They weren't given the opportunity.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know your thoughts on what Nashville or Tennessee should do, but losing this team would be detrimental, although I don't know that is necessarily an option either.
Yeah.
I don't know that Amy Adams Strunk is saying
I don't
we're
think,
leaving otherwise.
I don't think things have gotten to that point. I don't think things will get to that point, but it's an interesting conversation, I think.
I'm not sure that the argument that most of them use is, well, it's, it is a tourism draw. Nashville doesn't need any more tourism.
Yeah. If that's the argument you're using, you need another one.
So Nashville, Tennessee is going to have, the Titans are going to have to come up with a new one.
Yeah. I mean, Cincinnati may need those tourist dollars, I don't know. Not Green Bay, but I mean, there are cities, like you said, that aren't Nashville where that
makes a difference.
Yeah.
Here it does not.
It does not fly. Yeah. So
anyway, let's just go ahead and move on, because again, a lot can go into this, and we're far, far away from that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you before we get to the next break about my friend Zach Womble. We had him on earlier this
Monday,
this week on Monday. So if you want to listen to that, you can. His podcast, The Full Court Press, covers Sumner County sports from baseline to baseline and everywhere in between. Zach takes you inside the world of high school sports in Sumner County each week, airing live Thursdays at noon on Main Street Media social media channels. Get the 411 with Zach's 221 Press and hear directly from the source of Sumner County. Follow him on Twitter at FCP_MSP. Subscribe on your favorite podcast delivery platform. When we come back, Heather Williams talking NASCAR. Stick around. Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Keep your home as comfortable as possible. If you have any issues with your air conditioner, electrical, or plumbing systems, call Lee Company. Our techs use visual findings and other technology tools to add transparency and clarity. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on the roof. We're here 24/7, so if you need us, call us. Lee Company. Call 931-548-4448 today or schedule your appointment at leecompany.com. That's leecompany.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee. Because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Welcome back in. It is Hump Day here on Main Street Sports today. Glad to have you with us here on this Wednesday edition. It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. We give you the weirdest and wildest news from across the world. In the next segment, make sure to stick around. Before that, though, we'll get a chance to talk a little NASCAR, vroom, vroom, zoom, zoom. Let's talk about Wild and Wacky. Middle of the race, a tire just bloop, pops right off. You picked a fine time to leave me, loose wheel. Yeah, I wish they would have played that on the air. That would have been great. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about rookie Austin Cindric. We'll talk about the new car, all of that with WCYB-TV's Heather Williams. Heather, thanks for taking some time with us today. How are you?
I'm great. Got back from Daytona a couple of days ago, and
you're still great.
Believe that I am still great. Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I spent most of yesterday sleeping.
There you go.
Oh, that's why she's great right there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fun weekend for sure.
Sounds like, obviously, as Chris has pointed out, another rookie winning at Daytona. It's full of surprises down there nowadays, huh?
It is. And I would say that Austin Cindric is a little bit different than your typical rookie this year. He spent an extra year in the Xfinity Series last year after winning a championship 2 years ago. He's a little older than the other two rookies that moved up. So, and he's in an outstanding car, probably a top 10 car in the garage area. So, I mean, those things certainly helped him in his quest to win a championship, but still a surprise winner for sure.
It's interesting because this has kind of become commonplace where, first time winners are young drivers. And we talked about this with Ryan McGee last week. Sorry that, we had to push you, but we appreciate you being flexible with us.
I will be pushed for Ryan anytime that you, anytime. I love Ryan. I would love listening to him.
We appreciate that. But, he was talking about how these young drivers that they're skilled and they have a lot of energy. And Austin Cindric is one of those guys that you like to root for. He's, a great young man. And this is just another time where you see the Daytona 500 kind of launch not a superstar, but it launches a name, a guy that you can root for.
Yeah, for sure. And Daytona is, kind of set up that way in just the style of the racing. It doesn't have, that much to do with the car per se or how much speed. So lesser names or guys maybe you've never heard of before have a chance where they started, at where we're going this week, Fontana. That may or may not be the case with the new car, but certainly in the past, it's been about horsepower and downforce and those kind of things where you never would probably see a first-time winner in like a Michael McDowell at a racetrack like that. So I think Daytona sets up for that, but I think it makes it even greater that it's our biggest race and it's set up like that. I mean, it's our biggest race of the year and literally anyone can win it. That's the coolest thing ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, super speedways tend to lend themselves to, drivers who really get lucky. I mean, obviously the Cindric did not get lucky. He was running up front with his Ford friends for most of the third stage. And I wonder how much impact does that have on folks like Bubba Wallace and Kyle Busch who just don't have any. There aren't as many Toyotas. There are 5 typically in most races.
Yeah, and it makes it tougher. It definitely makes it tougher. But I'll be honest with you, at the end of the race, when you're in that final restart, whoever's behind you is your friend and your teammate. You can't really go searching for teammates. The truck race is a perfect example for anyone that watched that. The top two cars in the outside lane were Chandler Smith in the Ford and Parker Kligerman in the Chevy, and they worked together because they were lined up 2 and 4, and Parker pushed Chandler to the win. So during the race, when you're trying to work your way up to the front, it definitely is an advantage. But at the end of the race, if Bubba had lined up 1 and Austin was behind him and Kyle was behind him, Austin would have worked with those Toyotas because that's who's around him.
Sure.
You don't really have a choice. And I also would like to make a little bit of a statement about luck and Daytona. There's definitely a ton of luck involved. But you generally see the same guys running towards the front and running well at super speedways because there is definitely an art and a skill to it. Dale Earnhardt Jr., perfect examples of that. Those guys were always in the mix at those races because it does take a skill set that some people, and I even talked to some drivers about this, they don't necessarily take the time, they don't think it's worth the effort at a super speedway to gain that kind of skill because they do it so infrequently. But there are guys like Bubba, like Denny Hamlin, like Michael McDowell, who really work hard to be good on those kinds of tracks. And they're always in the mix at the end of the races.
Speaking with Heather Williams here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Heather Williams with WCYB, the NBC affiliate up in the Tri-Cities. And Heather, I'm sitting here looking at your piece, the backstretch week 1, and I guess that's a piece that you do weekly during the season. But we wanted to ask you, one of the things that you're doing in this is grading the next gen debut. What were your thoughts on the next gen rollout down at Daytona?
I thought it was good. I thought that the cars seemed to draft pretty well. I thought it was interesting that they seemed to tend to want to gravitate towards the kind of old, I say old, but it's only like 20 years, if that. Tandem drafting, they seem to work better in that than in big packs, although there was tons of packs racing. For a super speedway, I thought they looked really good. I think the real test is going to be this week at Montana because that's the racing that this series does the most. So we'll really see, can you pass? Can you get runs? How do they handle, which most of the drivers told me they handled terrible, but that actually makes for better racing. So it'll be interesting to see really next week what this car can do. But as far as the super speedway, I thought the racing was pretty much the same as it's always been, and I thought it was great.
And that makes it interesting because, obviously California is coming up next. Of course, we're off this Sunday, but California, not a super speedway, but still a really big track. So how does this car work going forward at places like Bristol or which we saw, I guess, a quasi Bristol in thank you in the Coliseum, but like in the future, this car, we just got to wait and see. Is that kind of what this whole process is?
Yeah, I mean, there's been some testing, so we'll have some idea. Like they tested at Atlanta, and they tested at Charlotte, which will give guys kind of a baseline as how it will run at Fontana in California. But yeah, they never tested Bristol except for one single car test there. So and they haven't, I think they had one dirt test, not at Bristol, at another track. So when they show up for Bristol dirt, who knows? But that was the case last year, really. So I don't know that will be much different. And when they show up for Bristol the second time, who knows? Because there's been zero testing as far as how they'll handle in groups at Bristol. But I don't know that they're worried about that because, just like the Coliseum, Bristol's more about muscling people out way than it is handling. So I think this next race will really be the true test because that's the kind of racing they do the most. And then handling and aerodynamics and horsepower are such a big deal. And allegedly all that's equal now. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be much more on the drivers.
With driving differences at places like Bristol and California, and what I'm really interested in, the road courses. You know, we've kind of seen these drivers talk a little trash about the car. Like you said, they don't like the handling necessarily, and there's a lot of things that you have to adjust to as a driver. But I'm just curious, as a whole throughout this season, from what we saw on Sunday and what we saw in the Clash, it looks to me like, because these are kit cars, that we're going to see a lot more parity across NASCAR, because it's not just about how you can't Days of Thunder it, and I'm going to shave off a piece here and give you a low oil pan and all that kind of stuff. These cars are basically identical.
Sure. I think, and especially initially, you're going to see a lot of parity, but don't think for a second that teams aren't trying to find a way to get an advantage. Look what happened to the Penske and RFK cars this week in Daytona, right? And if people want to watch the segment that we did on our station, Backstretch, Chris Carrier, who's a crew chief in the truck series, is my analyst. And he really breaks down what they were doing at Penske and RFK. And it's basically they shaved off that. So, and it has to do with the wheel thing that you brought up earlier. So these cars are set up so that they have very tight tolerances to get those wheels on. And if you don't get them lined up just right, your wheel's not on tight. So they made those holes just a little bit bigger. They said for safety reasons, so they could make sure to get that on there and get those wheels on tight. And they got caught.
But
they're always looking for an advantage. They're always looking for something. And eventually somebody's going to hit on something that's not in the rule book, that's not illegal, that's going to get an advantage. And they're probably going to go weeks before NASCAR figures it out. What the sport is. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Well, I was going to say that's kind of been a lot of folks in NASCAR. That's kind of been their mantra for years and years. It's not necessarily
been their
cheating
mantra from the start.
It's not necessarily cheating, but it's more so,
you're looking for an edge.
There's got to be an edge somewhere.
Yeah.
And those teams like Penske and Hendrick and probably Roush now with Keselowski over there and Joe Gibbs Racing, those guys are going to find the edge eventually. But at the beginning of the year, don't be surprised if you see Michael McDowell win on a mile and a half. Don't be surprised if you see Todd Gilliland win at Bristol, because it's just much more even now.
What happens to the teams who found themselves with torn up race cars this week?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because the supply shortage is real. Now, they probably weren't taking these cars to the next 2 or 3 races anyway, but in talking to different drivers, and especially talking with Denny Hamlin and Brad Keselowski as owner drivers at Daytona, most of these teams only have 3 to 4 cars, where in the past they might have had as many as 30 cars per team. So, getting ready for this race is fine because that car was behind, and probably the backup car they were going to use for that too. But the next race, they've got to come all the way, back to Fontana, or if they've got to take their engineers out to the track, because they're going to probably have to use that car on that next swing. And if they wreck a car out there, then they're really in trouble.
Yeah, that seems to be the biggest issue, is where, teams like Noah Gragson, who only have 1 car, and he got caught up in an accident, and that's just,
and he's out for weeks.
Yeah, because that's the only.
Well, and a team like Deere, their next race isn't until Talladega, so they'll probably be fine. But there are other smaller cars like BJ McLeod's Live Fast team that are trying to run every race, that are in a much more dire situation.
Man, this new car is expensive, and you can't get parts for it. That's, I guess.
And you know what? I talked to Denny Hamlin back in December, and he sounded the alarm on this. Like, this has been something that's just been an issue for a long time. But NASCAR's opinion is, and I guess I get it, is everybody's in the same boat. Like everybody has the same amount of cars. So, but it's just wait for the first time that the big teams are going to find cars, but just wait till a mid-sized team has trouble getting to a track because of a car. Then I think it might open some eyes.
You don't want to be affected, don't wreck, right?
Sometimes you can't help it.
Well, it did. Yeah. But it did change. It did change the way that people, especially practice, but also race the duels. I mean, anyone that watched the dual races on Thursday, for dual races, those were pretty calm because everybody was afraid of wrecking their car.
And
Joey Logano wrecked a car.
All of those, and a lot of folks are like, "Man, this is boring." Well, that's the unfortunate byproduct of it, because typically the dual races were really, really, intense, but not this time. It is what it is. But California in 2 weeks, Daytona was a lot of fun. Austin Cindric won. Bubba Wallace finishes second without a entire right front fender. So
so impressive. It was such an impressive run at the end for him.
Look, I tweeted, I said, Bubba's done. He doesn't even have he's lost in the entire fender. There's no way that he's going to be able to get up to speed. And yet he was able to. And had Austin Cindric not made a great move at the end of the race, who knows who could have won. I mean, it would have been a three-way, 3 wide at the finish line. So well done to Austin Cindric. And thank you, Heather, for taking time with us. As always, we appreciate it.
Anytime, guys. Love coming on.
All right. When we come back, it's the wildest and weirdest news from across the world. Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today. Stick around. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Keep your home as comfortable as possible. If you have any issues with your air conditioner, electrical, or plumbing systems, call Lee Company. Our techs use visual findings and other technology tools to add transparency and clarity. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on the roof. We're here 24/7, so if you need us, call us. Lee Company. Call 931-548-4448 today or schedule your appointment at leecompany.com. That's leecompany.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back in to Main Street Sports Today.
You guys are getting antsy coming back.
Well, I saw your hand go up, and I thought you were pointing, but
no, not yet. No.
Until he breaks the wrist, you're still on standby.
Yeah, well,
of course.
It is what it is. We're
just excited, JP.
We are.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I'm excited too.
Because we have the weirdest and wildest news from across the world coming up.
Yeah, two Zanies guys this side of the Duck River. We're right there.
That we are.
Here in your homes, in your phones, in your iPads, on your computer screens.
We push the dumbest news into your homes. Well, do we want to start with Florida woman or end with Florida woman? Let's end.
End with Florida.
Because
Yeah, that'll work.
End with Florida woman? Okay.
Judah Grace Spear is my favorite new baby.
Judith Grace Spear.
Judah.
Okay.
Is my new favorite baby. Born at 2:22 a.m. yesterday on 2/22/22 Tuesday.
There we go.
Nice.
Judah came into the world in delivery room number 2. Come on.
You can't make this up.
Here's what's crazy. And this isn't like fun. This is just weird, right? This is the weird part, not the wacky part. She's a miracle baby in other ways. Her mother is a survivor of Hodgkin's lymphoma and feared that cancer treatment that saved her life would also make a successful pregnancy unlikely. I heard all the nurses screaming in excitement, and I was like, what's happening? I looked at him, and I was like, what time was she born? They said 2:22. So then, obviously, that's why everyone got excited. So, wild. That's the wild news, the weird news. That was pretty awesome, though.
Chris, we got both kinds.
Wild and
wacky. Both kinds of
Western.
craziness. Wild and wacky.
So anyone who knows me knows that I politically label myself as a little case L libertarian, and this.
What the hell does that mean?
Well, I'm not a card-carrying libertarian because the Libertarian Party is
a lowercase.
Yeah.
So you're quasi-in?
Give him a hand. Give him a hand. All right.
That said,
the Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicles fired 4 employees this week after they discovered that nearly 2,100 drivers were issued licenses without taking road tests.
Okay.
Personally, not a fan of driver's licenses anyway, but I don't know how I feel with 2,100 people from Massachusetts in itself. Because come on now, if you've ever been to Boston,
that's a crazy driving town.
Man, what are you talking about?
You could argue, yeah, they've never really had the.
I don't even know that they're really necessary. Yeah, exactly. Or this explains some things.
Maybe it's not just 2,100, huh?
It may be a few more than 2,100. Oh,
that would explain some things. Yeah.
Jacqueline Goddard told the Boston Globe, upon discovering suspicious activity regarding the issuance of road tests in 2020, the RMV launched an investigation and referred the issue to law enforcement. They determined 2,100 drivers were granted licenses. All of those impacted individuals have been contacted and will be required to take and pass a road test within 10 days. By the way, you thought the DMV was backed up before? 2,100 people in 10 days?
Plus the regulars.
That's like it's a worst nightmare situation.
Ooh.
This may be the worst thing to ever happen to a DMV. This is insane. The RMV,
I'll just take the bus, thank you.
This has been happening since April of 2018. They were just like, all right. Now, okay, when you took your driver's test, what was involved?
Turning signals, hitting the correct lanes when you turn, and parallel parking, right?
We won't ask Mo because he had to use his feet
Yeah.
get started.
Fred Flintstone.
Yep.
Yeah. You got to realize the Franklin, Tennessee that I took my driver's test in was
Completely different world.
completely different. But there was a youth park across the street from the training from the DMV, which it's not in Tennessee. But anyway, 4 right turns. I'm back. Boom.
4 right turns.
4 right turns.
Not one left turn.
Not a single left turn, not a single parallel park, nothing.
Man.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we had the exact same driving test. I made 4 right turns, and the parking spot he told me to park into was a parallel parking spot, but
There was no other cars.
there was no other car, so I pulled right in, and he was like, "Here you go, enjoy."
Next.
My granddad also knew the guy, so old Dan.
I think some people are not, are closer to probably the Massachusetts DMV workers. They're not really in it to keep you from getting your license.
That's correct. They're not trying to trip you up here.
Yeah.
You can't buy a license if you can't pass the license.
That's right. You can't. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, because if you fail the test, you don't
State
pay.
doesn't get the money.
They don't get the money.
So
So
it's all a racket.
Just a racket.
Hey, I'm a new dad, and
Still?
you didn't have to really deal with this, I assume, because your kids were probably right in the real good age of the internet, where you were still telling them, don't talk to strangers on the internet type of thing. A French dad didn't want his kids on the internet, so he just used a signal jammer to prevent his kids from getting on it, except that it took down the internet for the entire town.
Nice. It's a powerful.
Entire town?
The entire town.
How big a town are we talking about? I mean,
Bigger than his family.
This isn't Paris, is it? Yeah, we would have heard about that.
Well, it is about I don't know, because it's a popular place, but it's a popular place for tourism. It doesn't tell me exactly how big it is.
But it's a popular place for tourism.
But it's a popular place for tourism.
That doesn't have internet.
No internet.
From midnight to 3 a.m. every day of the week, they found their cell service and internet service was no longer working. After a mobile carrier reported the issue, a public agency responsible for managing the spectrum in France was determined a signal jammer was being used to block the frequencies in the town. And so, yeah, it was simple. Father of his family, to prevent his teenagers from accessing the internet with their smartphone instead of falling asleep, he just took out the town's internet.
That's one way to do it.
That's it. I mean, I'm thinking about it. That's all I'm saying.
Hey,
I'm
if your
thinking
end goal is to keep them off the internet, that's one way to do it.
All right, final story of the day. Let's go to Florida.
Here we go.
Florida police allege a Walmart shopper threw a, quote, hissy fit before hurling a Barbie doll at a store worker's face when she was caught attempting to shop it. Happened around 1 p.m. on February 2nd in Winter Haven, Florida, which been there. Local police are asking for the public's help identifying the woman because apparently nobody knew. She stocked up the entire shopping cart with food and groceries, moved to the self-checkout area where she just kind of stood around for 15 minutes and then tried to leave.
Okay.
The video shows 4 employees stopped her and, quote, police say she told the workers to get the manager, Kim. I have an employee discount and I get my groceries for free. Well, the store has no manager named Kim. So
what about a Karen?
Nobody gets their groceries for free.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a heck of a discount.
So let me ask you this. Does it cease being a hissy fit if you're throwing something like a battery or something as opposed to a Barbie doll?
I'm not sure what kind of fit that might be, but a hissy fit is
that seems appropriate, throwing a Barbie doll.
Okay, so is a hissy fit bigger or smaller than a conniption?
I think it's more like a tantrum.
Yeah.
It's more like in the cereal aisle with your kids, I want the Reese's Puffs instead of the Cheerios type of thing.
That's a hissy fit?
That's a hissy fit, I think.
Okay, what's a conniption?
Oh, I think at that
out of your mind.
Yeah, that's when you're screaming, get the manager, Kim. I get an employee discount and get my groceries for free.
So the manager was Kim, so she's probably Karen.
Well, no, there
was
no
no Kim.
That's the thing.
Oh,
She's
still Karen.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's the weirdest and wildest news from across the world, though. It's tough week. Tough week for dumb criminals, I guess, and for teenagers trying to get on the internet in Massange, France.
Isn't every week a tough week for dumb criminals?
Yeah. Well,
some weeks are tougher than others.
If you're going to be dumb,
Varying
you got to be
levels.
tough. That's 2 Johnny Cash references in one show, ladies and gentlemen. With that, I'm just going to get out of here because I can't top it.
Yeah.
I got to go get my
You got to
kid.
know when to fold them.
All right, Kenny. Loose Will, Kenny. Look at there. We're here for it, man. JP and Mo, I'm Chris. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.